been a couple weeks now since we got the exciting announcement of a new Rhythm Heaven game. Yes, the series is alive and coming to the Nintendo Switch in 2026, which I'm not mad about. I'm just happy that the series is alive, but wow, man, that's still hitting me that we have to wait almost probably a full year to even get the game. But for this video, I just wanted to cover kind of some of my top wishes for the first new Rhythm Heaven game in 10 years. That's what we're getting. And just kind of, you know, gush over the series a little bit and just kind of share my excitement. And you guys can tell me too what you most look forward to seeing in a new Rhythm Heaven game and what your wishes are for this new entry in the series. At the top of my mind, my number one wish for Rhythm Heaven Groove is that we get some all new generational bangers. I'm talking bops. I want songs that get stuck in my head that I play and want to play over and over again, especially vocal tracks. I think this game deserves to have tons of vocal tracks. I hope we get some outstanding music from this game. We know that Sunku is back on production for this game, so I have full hope in this wish. I really think this game could provide some of the best of the series. I don't know, is that being hopeful? Well, I think this game really needs to pack some bangers. Every Rhythm Heaven game has received vocal cuts, and I hope this one is no exception. They're usually the most exciting moments of playing a Rhythm Heaven game. My hope for Rhythm Heaven Groove is that we get the full localization treatment from top to bottom. This was an issue with Rhythm Heaven Megamix when it dropped on the 3DS because of budgeting constraints, and I feel like those constraints should be a thing of the past. Coming off the success of the Switch for over 8 years, Nintendo has definitely been willing to invest in numerous series that they've been reviving all this time. Stuff like Famicom Detective Club, even getting a whole new entry. Like, that's exactly what I think when I see them putting a chance on Rhythm Heaven. But yeah, it just goes to show I fully expect them to have English vocal covers for every vocal song and just outstanding translation. I am curious to find out if we'll have another case of any regional differences between the games, whether that's entire mini games like in the case of Fever, or if there's any like weird omissions. I'm interested if in this day and age, if the game will actually become more uniform. I kind of hope it stays more uniform and that everybody worldwide gets the same package, because otherwise I'm gonna have to buy this game like 3 times. Let's be honest. I know I'm picking on Rhythm Heaven Megamix a lot, and that's not to say that it's a bad game. I just have a lot of nitpicks with Megamix, and we're gonna continue that for a little bit with, I would really like Rhythm Heaven Groove to kind of reel back the structure of the levels to what Rhythm Heaven Fever and DS and Tengoku offered, with just the straight up grids of levels that are not interfered by a dialogue story mode, which is just walls of text. I know, I'm looking at you, Tibby. Listen, Tibby, it's not your fault. You were programmed the way you were to be just story padding and nonsense and mashing the A button to get to the next level. I'm sorry if you enjoy Tibby. I'm not here to hate or stomp on your Tibby parade, but we do not need that in Rhythm Heaven Groove. And I feel like this is going to be really a reintroduction of the series, whereas Megamix was kind of a looking back on the series and kind of wrapping everything up in one book. I feel like Rhythm Heaven Groove needs to be the reinvention. We don't need all this padding and story mode. It needs to be focused more on the gameplay like it used to be on Fever. Personally, I don't need a story. And we know from the trailer that they've emphasized with the new main character that guides you, saying this game doesn't offer a big fancy story, and so that's a good sign. I feel like the studio understands that the gameplay is best presented the way it used to be. Next thing I want to talk about is the control options. Now, I think it would be cool if we actually got multiple control options for this game. Now, looking at the trailer, they show the IRL hand using the Joy-Cons with the grip, which kind of indicates to me that we're looking at more of a traditional Game Boy Advance to Megamix style of A, B, and the D-pad. So it's looking like it's going to be like 2 hands on the controller at all times, which to me, as a Rhythm Heaven Fever lover, is maybe a little disappointing because I love playing with just like 1 hand on the Wii remote.
The controls are a snap as well. All you have to do is press the A and B buttons on the Wii remote controller in time to the music.
I just think it would be cool to play the game with a single Joy-Con and using like the face button plus trigger combo, like the A plus B button from the Wii remote. I think that would be best, my most preferred way. So I'm adding it as a wish, but I'm also going to doubt that because from what they've shown in the trailer, it looks like you're going to be using probably the conventional control method of A button, maybe the B button, and probably some of the D-pad if I had to guess, but you never know. We'll see. They've only really shown using one button, which could also be the case. Actually, this would be the first time if they decide to make a Rhythm Heaven game using only one button. An interesting concept. That's a concept that Bits and Bops is going with, the indie game coming out later this year. So maybe Bits and Bops will do that anyway, if not Rhythm Heaven Groove. It's something to think about. My next wish was going to be accessibility, and I think we're getting good hopes for this one. You know, I mentioned playing with one hand, but also for playing the game blind or blindfolded. It seems like this is going to be the first Rhythm Heaven to offer text-to-speech for all the dialogue. Hopefully that is the case, because I think that's just a W for accessibility. I've already heard comments from you guys and even from blind gamers who look forward to the series and are hopeful that this game will offer even more accessibility than in the past. It goes especially for the content, you know, the gameplay, but if there's accessibility for navigating the menus as well and just hearing the dialogue and information, like that's a W too. Even as the trailer says, you might even be able to play these games without looking. So yeah, they're obviously sticking true to that nature of the game. I just want to see the series get weird. Like now the series has always been weird, but even looking at like WarioWare Move It, which was the studio's last game that they shipped just a couple years back, WarioWare is even more known for getting weird. And I would love to see Rhythm Heaven like really bounce off of that confidence of just going completely bananas, you know, just completely going wild with the concepts. And I don't know from the games we've seen in the trailer if I'm really sold that this is going to be like the craziest, wildest Rhythm Heaven game yet, you know, but we've only seen a little bit of the game so far. So there's plenty of time for me to be surprised by the content of this game. And I just want this game to have laugh out loud moments. You know, I want the game to be weird, to be surprising and fun, and just not take itself so seriously, which they all have done. So again, not much doubt for that one. Now this one's probably going to be a little bit more catered to my taste, but I would love for Rhythm Heaven to have more difficulty. Now for Rhythm Heaven Groove to be a reinvention of the series, I understand that this is a casual rhythm game, and I definitely want this game to be open to newcomers. However, I feel like when Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix came out, they took that way too far in the opening sequence of the game, where they padded all of these old levels with easier versions that are just honestly a drag to have to get through, you know, until you're finally getting to like the third sequel of some games, like just to get to a regular difficulty. So I don't mind like the padding of easier difficulty, but I feel like Rhythm Heaven Groove should be a little bit more balanced in its difficulty, starting from more regular to a harder difficulty. And I think Fever does it pretty well, even though there's a few, you know, early levels that tend to be pretty hard. But I know I've been picking on Mega Mix, but actually I'll shout out some of the things I really like about Mega Mix, including some of the extra modes that they offer, like Challenge Road, for instance, which is just an easy way to remix levels and offer more content. I feel like with Fever, like I find myself like having to make up my own challenges or speed run the game, or, you know, do crazy stuff out of my own ideas, like just to keep it entertaining. I feel like there's so many ways you could incorporate like challenge ideas from like Challenge Road, but also stuff like Tempo Up. I think they should add these modifiers, but also not gatekeep them behind a Challenge Road. I think you should be able to add these modifiers to any level so that after you've completed the game, it unlocks modifiers where you can just choose a level and decide, I'm going to play this on Tempo Up, or I'm going to play this on Perfect Chance, which also I think it's time. I think it would be nice if the series gave you the ability to turn on a Perfect Chance at any point. I don't know if they're going to do that. You know, this is a very Nintendo thing where you can only go for a perfect if it's randomly selected. That one, it's a series staple. Maybe people like that. I don't know if I've ever really cared about that. I think it would be better if maybe for the post game, you have an option to just go for any perfect that you choose. This is me being selfish because it would be easier to stream challenges if I had that option and I didn't have to like mod the game to always get a Perfect Chance like I do in like Rhythm Heaven Fever. Like, so that's just one thing. But yeah, I mean, there's so many ways that you could just take what existing content you have and just mix it up slightly. Or even like, I think about like Rayman Legends. That game has like those musical platforming levels, if you remembered that back in the day. But then they also have like the remix versions where they have like all the visual gags and like distractions going on. I think there's just so many ways that you could incorporate new challenge modes into the game to really just pad the value that you're giving. Just like cheap ways to spend more time with the game. Like I would be totally happy with stuff like that. Moving on, I'm going to briefly touch on two-player. I think this game will bring back two-player mode. Some people are even observing from the minigames in the trailer that there's a lot of focuses on characters off to the side where they think maybe this could have a two-player mode with another character mirroring the other character. While I'm not sure if that really adds up, I do think there's plenty of room for two-player mode or even exclusively two-player mode minigames like we had in Fever with the Endless games. Really hope that this game has the most content of any Rhythm Heaven yet. You know, I want this game to surpass the level of content in Rhythm Heaven Megamix, and that includes having like two-player modes, endless games, new rhythm toys, you know, bring everything back that the series is stapled for, but push it even further. Another couple niche things, I mentioned Perfect Chance. It would be nice if on Perfect Chances they don't lock you out after you lose a note, or like immediately after you miss. That was something they started introducing in Megamix, and I really don't like that. I would like the chance to keep practicing the song before I miss a note and get locked out. So yeah, don't do that anymore, please. I'm also interested in what legacy games they'll bring back to the series. You know, a lot of people are going to expect to see the return of Karate Man, Karate Joe. There's definitely room for the legacy games, but at this point, we've seen them so many times, like Karate Man, Samurai Slice, which had a great version in 3D on the 3DS with what was it, Super Samurai Slice? That one was really good. So like, if they can bring back the legacy games but reinvent them in a way, I think that's what's best. There's also like Polyrhythm / Built to Scale. I could see them bringing that back in some way. But let me know what legacy games you would like to see return or make some kind of comeback in Rhythm Heaven Groove. I'm sure you guys are gonna list off a bunch because I mean, it would be cool to see some returning games. We need a Love Lab too. Come on. Irina, you know something? Munchie Monk, obviously. I think Munchie Monk would be an epic return. Not gonna get my hopes up for that, but wow, I've just been yapping for like 20 minutes, so I've got to edit this down. But let me know what you guys want to see in Rhythm Heaven Groove. Those are really just my off-the-cuff thoughts and wishes and excitements for Rhythm Heaven Groove as someone who has deeply enjoyed the series over the past couple of years and is just looking forward to there being a new one. And I'm just celebrating with the rest of you the fact that this game is existing, it's being worked on, and that we're going to get it for the Switch next year. So let me know in the comments what you're excited about for Rhythm Heaven Groove. See you in the next video.